You spent more on your wedding than your parents spent on their house, and you called it the happiest day of your life. The average American wedding now costs $35,000. That number was $12,000 in 1990. Inflation doesn't explain that. Your salary didn't triple. But something did change. The wedding industry became a psychological extraction machine designed to make you confuse debt with love. And the trap works because it disguises financial suicide as a social necessity. This video will show you the exact stages of that trap. You'll see where you are inside it. And you'll learn how to escape before the bill comes due. Right now, someone you know is planning a wedding. They're stressed. They're fighting with their partner about flowers. They're apologizing to their parents about the guest list. They're refreshing credit card balances at 2 a.m. And they're telling themselves the same lie you've heard 1,000 times. It's just one day. But that one day will cost them 3 years of financial recovery. The debt they take on will delay their first house by 18 months. It will cut their retirement contributions in half for 5 years. The wedding industry knows this. They've built a business model around the fact that you can't say no when everyone is watching. This isn't about love. This is about manufacturing a moment of maximum vulnerability and extracting everything you have. The ancestor of this trap isn't the royal wedding. It's the company store. In the early 20th century, mining companies paid workers in scrip. Company money, only good at the company store. The prices were marked up. The selection was limited, but you had no choice. You needed food. You needed tools. The company owned the only store within 50 miles, so you paid whatever they asked. And every week, your debt to the company grew. The trap worked because it attached itself to a non-negotiable need. You can't not eat. The wedding industry discovered the same principle. You can't not get married if everyone expects it. The difference is that the company store trapped you with geography. The wedding industry traps you with social proof. The second ancestor is the debutante ball. In the 1920s and 1930s, wealthy families spent enormous sums presenting their daughters to society. The costs were absurd. Custom gowns, orchestras, catered dinners for 300 guests. The point wasn't the party. The point was proving you belonged. If you spent less than your neighbors, you were admitting you couldn't afford the entry fee to your own social class. The mechanism was pure status competition. The family that spent $10,000 proved they were more secure than the family that spent $5,000. And the family that spent $5,000 had to pretend they chose restraint. The wedding industry inherited this engine. It rebranded the debutante ball as your special day and sold it to the middle class. Now everyone competes. The trap works because you're not just buying a wedding. You're buying proof that you're worth celebrating. The third ancestor is installment credit. Ancestor is, in the 1950s, retailers discovered they could sell more refrigerators if customers didn't have to pay the full price up front. So they offered payment plans. $10 a month for 30 months. The refrigerator cost $200. The payment plan cost $300, but it didn't feel like $300. It felt like $10. And $10 was manageable. The psychological trick was simple. Break a large, painful number into small, acceptable numbers. The customer says yes because they're not looking at the total. They're looking at the monthly cost. The wedding industry perfected this. They don't tell you the wedding costs $35,000. They tell you the venue is $3,000. The photographer is $2,000. The flowers are $1,800. Each line item feels survivable. You say yes 40 times, and when you add it up, you've bought a car you'll never drive. This brings us to stage 1, the engagement. You just got engaged. You're happy. You're telling everyone. And within 72 hours, someone asks about the date. Then someone asks about the venue. Then someone sends you a Pinterest board. You haven't even processed the fact that you're getting married. But the wedding industry is already inside your head. This is the moment of maximum emotional openness. You're vulnerable. You're excited. You want to share this feeling. And the industry knows that the first yes is the hardest. So they don't ask you to commit to $35,000. They ask you to commit to looking at venues. Just looking. No pressure. But looking is the trap. Because once you see the venue with the garden and the string lights, you're not comparing it to your budget. You're comparing it to your imagination. And your imagination just became the floor. Stage 2 is the vendor lock-in. You booked the venue, now you need a caterer. The venue has a preferred vendor list. You could hire someone else, but the venue charges a $1,500 outside vendor fee. So you pick from the list. The caterer has a minimum guest count, 80 people. You were thinking 50, but if you want this venue and you want to avoid the fee, you're inviting 80 people. Now you need tables. The caterer has a rental partner. You could rent elsewhere, but the caterer won't guarantee setup timing unless you use their partner. So you use the partner. Every decision you make eliminates one more option. And every option you lose makes the next decision easier. Not because you're confident, because you're tired. The industry calls this the wedding planning journey. The accurate term is decision fatigue arbitrage. They give you 500 choices on things that don't matter and 2 choices on things that do. By the time you're picking napkin colors, you've stopped fighting about the photographer's price. Stage 3 is the social visibility trap. You posted the engagement photos, you got 300 likes, your friends are asking about the wedding, your family is asking about the guest list, everyone is excited for you. And now you're terrified of disappointing them. This is where the system turns. Because the wedding stopped being about you and your partner. It became a performance for an audience you didn't audition. Your college roommate expects an invitation. Your mom's book club expects an invitation. Your partner's co-workers expect an invitation. And each of those people expects a certain kind of wedding. Not a backyard barbecue. A wedding with centerpieces and a DJ and a plated dinner. You could say no. You could trim the list. You could simplify. But that would require telling people they're not invited. And telling people they're not invited feels like telling them they're not important. So you say yes, you expand the guest list, you upgrade the package, and you swallow the cost because the alternative is social humiliation. Then comes stage 4, the upgrade spiral. You pick the basic package, but the basic package doesn't include champagne during cocktail hour. It doesn't include up lighting. It doesn't include the premium linens. And when you see the difference between basic and premium, basic looks cheap. You're already spending $25,000. What's another $1,800 for the thing that makes the photos look good? The vendor knows you're thinking this. They designed the packages to make basic feel inadequate. This is the same mechanism luxury car dealers use. They show you the base model, vinyl seats, no sunroof, manual transmission. Then they show you the touring model, leather, panoramic roof, all the features you didn't know you wanted until you saw them. The gap between the 2 models is $8,000, but you're not buying a car, you're buying the feeling of not settling. The wedding industry runs this play on every category: flowers, photography, music, cake. Each vendor shows you the basic tier and the premium tier, and each time you upgrade because you've already committed this much and you're only doing this once. Stage 5 is where the system becomes irreversible. You're 6 months out. You've put down deposits, 50% on the venue, 30% on the photographer, $1,000 on the invitations. You've already spent $14,000 and none of it is refundable. This is the lock. You can't cancel now without losing everything. And you can't scale back without starting over. So you're trapped in forward motion. The only direction is more guests, more upgrades, more expenses. And the industry built this structure intentionally. The deposit model ensures you're financially committed before you see the total bill. By the time you realize you're spending $40,000 instead of $25,000, you're too deep to stop. The sunk cost fallacy becomes the business model. You've already spent this much. You can't waste it now. So you spend more to protect what you've already spent. The trap feeds itself. Stage 6 is the day of reckoning delay. The wedding happens. It's beautiful. Everyone says it's beautiful. You're exhausted. You're relieved. And you don't think about the money because you're on your honeymoon. The bills don't come due for 30 days. The credit card statements arrive in October. The wedding was in June. By then, the emotional high is gone. You're back at work. You're looking at $17,000 on one card, $9,000 on another, $4,000 on a personal loan your parents co-signed, and the minimum payments total $850 a month. This is the separation the industry needs. If you paid cash up front, you'd feel the pain immediately. You'd make different choices. But credit creates a time gap between the decision and the consequence. And in that gap, you convince yourself it was worth it. Everyone says it was worth it, but worth is measured over time. And over the next 3 years, you'll pay an extra $6,000 in interest. That's not the cost of the wedding. That's the cost of not feeling the cost. You are here. Right now, you're in one of these stages. Maybe you're engaged and you just started looking at venues. Maybe you're 3 months out and the budget is doubled. Maybe you're married and you're staring at the credit card bills, wondering how this happened. The trap worked because you thought you were making choices. But you weren't. You were following a script the industry wrote 30 years ago. And the script works because it aligns with what everyone around you expects. Your parents expect a real wedding. Your friends expect an invitation. Social media expects photos that prove you're happy. And the wedding industry built a product that satisfies all of those expectations while extracting the maximum amount of money from the least resistance moment of your life. This is not a conspiracy. This is a business model. The wedding industry generates $50 billion a year in the United States. That's larger than the entire US beer industry. It's twice the size of the US pet insurance market. And it's growing. Because the model works. They've discovered that emotional decisions made under social pressure produce the highest yield per customer. The average couple spends more on their wedding than they have in savings. 63% of couples go into debt for their wedding. 47% say they regret how much they spent, but they do it anyway. Because by the time they realize the trap, they're already inside it. And everyone around them is telling them it's normal. The mechanism is elegant. First, they attach the purchase to an emotionally non-negotiable event. You can't not get married. Second, they fragment the cost into dozens of small decisions. No single line item feels unaffordable. Third, they introduce social visibility. Now, you're not just spending your money, you're spending your reputation. Fourth, they lock you in with deposits before you see the total. And fifth, they delay the financial pain until after the emotional reward. By the time you feel the consequences, the day is over. The photos are posted, the thank you cards are sent, and you're holding the bill. The math is deliberately opaque. Venues charge by the plate. But the plate includes the chair rental, and the chair rental includes the setup fee, and the setup fee assumes you're using their linens. And the linens are priced per table, and the tables are priced by count, not by guest. So when the venue says $75 per person, the actual cost is $93 per person. And you don't find that out until you get the final invoice. Photographers do the same thing. The package includes 6 hours of coverage, but if the ceremony runs late, overtime is $300 per hour. And you don't know the ceremony will run late until it does, so you pay. Florists quote by arrangement, but the arrangement doesn't include delivery. Delivery doesn't include setup. Setup doesn't include breakdown. Each unbundled fee is small enough to accept and large enough to matter. And the sum of all those small acceptances is the difference between a $25,000 wedding and a $40,000 wedding. The reward is the bait, the habit is the trap. But the wedding isn't a habit. It's a one-time event. So how does the trap continue? Through precedent. Once you've proven you'll spend $40,000 on a wedding, you've established a baseline for future major purchases. The baby shower has to match the wedding's energy. The first birthday party has to match the baby shower. The 5-year anniversary has to reference the wedding. You've created a standard you now have to maintain. And the industry knows this. Wedding vendors also do birthday parties. Photographers who shot your wedding will reach out when your first kid turns 1. Florists who did your centerpieces will send holiday discount codes. You're not just a one-time customer. You're a long-term revenue stream. The wedding was the proof of concept. They learn how much you'll spend when emotions and social pressure align. Now they'll replicate that condition for every milestone. Here's how you escape. First rule, set a cash-only budget before you talk to any vendor. If you don't have the money in your account right now, you can't afford the wedding. Credit is not an option. It's a trapdoor. Second rule, cut the guest list in half, then cut it in half again. The cost of a wedding scales linearly with guest count. 40 people cost half as much as 80 people, and the people who matter will show up to a backyard. The people who won't are proving they don't matter. Third rule: refuse all upgrades. Basic is enough. Premium is a tax on insecurity. If the basic package feels cheap, the problem isn't the package. The problem is you're shopping at a vendor who prices basic to feel inadequate. Find a vendor who makes basic feel complete.